Hi Lara. Well, we're ready to do your channeling session. I've gone over your notes. I've gone over your answers to the questionnaire. I've read your emails. I've gone over everything multiple times now, so I've got a really good feeling for you and also what it is that you want to know. Before we start though, you said that I look like Sting. I seem to have the type of head that I often get told that I look like people. Pretty much anybody with a jaw, and sort of blondish hair, I get told that I look like them. But Sting in particular, I've been told I look like Sting more times in my life than anyone else. And in fact, I was in Rodeo Drive in Hollywood just as a tourist, and some people were hanging out on a higher level, literally celebrity spotting, trying to see celebrities, and someone said, "It's Sting," and made a bit of a commotion that I was actually Sting, and then people started pursuing me down the street because they thought I was Sting and they wanted photos and autographs. So yeah, so you're quite right to say I look like Sting, because everybody else thinks that as well. I might actually retell that story at the end of my weekly channel. That's a good story, that one. So thanks for reminding me. Okay, well, it's not really anything else to say. So let's see what we have there for you. Lara? Greetings, Lara. Thank you for inviting us into your heart to share with you some insight and wisdom which is actually coming from your source. And this will be something which we'll discuss more in this session, because it is sort of centrally thematic to the overall message which we perceive is waiting to be delivered to you. One of the first things we would like to say is that your older brother has requested to be here to observe and possibly facilitate in the delivery of this information. And the main point which he wishes to convey, other than of course that he loves you and cares for you and still is aware of you, is that you have, in his opinion, always underestimated yourself. And so you contain capacities and abilities which you don't fully utilize. And he's speaking specifically in regard to spirituality. And this will all tie in as this channel progresses, and you will understand why he feels this way. So, in regard to your first group of questions, you have asked quite a few questions, and so what we're going to do is we're going to, rather than answer them individually, we will speak in sort of a thematic sense. We will speak in regard to a certain facet of your life, your existence, and just through that discussion, it will answer many of the questions that you ask in regard to that one particular thing. So you have begun off your questioning regarding your spirituality, your advancement along the spiritual path, and how this is related to the integration of your shadow and also your worthiness for ascension. This is a good place to start because it highlights the relevance of what your brother has said regarding you underestimating yourself. You have been a dedicated student of spirituality and understanding your spiritual self for a long time. And you have reached now a point in your path where it is important that you make a transition, where you no longer seek out the guru as much as you have in the past. There is always going to be a role for the teacher. Always. Because there will never be a time when there isn't a teacher, as the One is the ultimate teacher, and you will always be in pursuit of understanding the One. So there is never a point where the guru says, I no longer need a teacher, because there is no one that can teach me. Yet, there is a period in the guru's journey where the guru starts to take on responsibility for their own education, meaning that they teach themselves rather than they seek out the teacher. And part of this process means that you must have a greater sense of your own abilities, a greater sense of your own adeptness in spiritual matters. This is going to be made more obvious to you in a number of different ways that you could pursue. One of those would be to literally teach spirituality to others. And this will reveal to you that you know more than perhaps you suspect that you do. And also, it will give you the inspiration which will draw to you more spiritual knowledge and understanding which is available to you, but kind of just on the outsides of your awareness, because there is no force which is drawing it in. And then the next methodology which we will suggest, and this is the one which we think would be most useful and pertinent to you. It would be most easiest to utilize without changing really much in your life. And that is that you start channeling or directing a flow of wisdom that is available to you and has been sort of surrounding you, but does not have an access point, because up until now, the access point which you have given most access into your beingness is the teacher. Rather, whether it is a teacher that you see in person, or a teacher in a book, or a teacher in a video, you have been very much the student absorbing all that is given to you through this assortment of teachers that you have chosen throughout this journey, a spiritual journey in your life. And this has been commendable and wonderful and has grown you a great deal. But there is now starting to be a little bit of stagnation in your path forward when we observe your progress with what your progress could be. We see that your progress could be much faster than it is. You could be undergoing understandings and discoveries at a rate which is more than it is at the moment. And one of the reasons that it is this way, it's not because necessarily that you are accessing information which isn't available through other teachers, because of course there is a wide array of teachers with varying levels of access into the infinite wisdom. And so you will always be able to access or find the teacher that can give you the most pertinent truths for who you are, for where you are at in your journey. However, when you are the source of these new spiritual understandings, it is a much more of a visceral understanding. And so the time that is required to process and then integrate that information into your beingness is greatly reduced, because the information has literally arisen from your beingness. Your beingness has been the conduit for it. And so when it comes through you and you verbalize it, or you write it, or it is something which you're receiving internally, because it has passed through you, that has already begun the integration process. And you will find that you will be able to advance in your spiritual understanding, your understanding of yourself, faster. So, what we recommend is that you start doing some form of channeling. It is very common for women, particularly in your phase of life, that have been on a spiritual journey for some time, but now sort of reaching a point where it can really start taking a central place in their life, center stage, so to speak. And once this opportunity arises, then all of these sort of latent spiritual abilities start to become activated, start to become alive and awake. However, for many, it is not fully recognized what is going on. And so there is instead an awareness that hearing things and seeing things, but never really joining the dots to fully understand that it is a type of awakening. That it is you very deliberately being given all of these access points into a new level of understanding. However, you have been very intuitive that you have made the decision to seek out a professional, such as the channeler, that can provide you an insight so you can gather this understanding. And this will reposition you. It will give you a different perspective. And you'll now start to have a appreciation that all of these things that you are hearing and seeing are the precursors of what you are capable of. It is a wake-up call, an alarm. It's like the biological clock, but instead it is your spiritual clock. Your spiritual clock is now saying to you, okay, it is time, because of the phase of your life that you're in, to utilize your spiritual gifts rather than just being the perpetual student. And clairaudience is very common for women in this particular age bracket that you're in, to start hearing things. For men, it's more so to start seeing things. But for women, more so to start hearing things. These are not mutually exclusive. You will also see things, and men will also hear things, but this is just the tendencies which we have observed. So, to utilize this burgeoning gift, you first must develop a familiarity and an access to it. So, we suggest that you formalize the channeling process, or some process, some mechanism, some step-by-step, which has the absolute objective of bringing wisdom into your life through you as the conduit, rather than through the teacher. So, this would mean that you spend part of your life, whether it is every second day or once a week or twice a day or whatever feels comfortable with you, that you decide, am I going to verbalize the message? Am I going to write the message? Am I just going to receive it internally and memorize the message? Decide how it is that you are going to receive and convey this message. And then once you have made this decision, then start doing the same thing every single day. Meaning, ritualize the process. And the reason we say ritualize the process is because ritualization has a very effective congruency with spirituality. And that is why you'll see all forms of genuine spirituality, which are practiced around the world, particularly through those that have dedicated their lives, such as the Shaolin monks. There is a great deal of ritual involved because it has been proven ritual works. When you do things the same way with the same intent over and over, you continue to get increasing rewards. So, ritualize your channeling experience. So, there is much more that could be taught in regard to this idea of you becoming a channel, but you have obviously had an interest in channeling because you're here now watching this, and possibly you have also experimented with channeling. So what we're saying now is just put more time into this aspect of your life through understanding how it's done and then through actually doing it, so that you can start to be the conduit point for this wisdom which is waiting to come into your life. And we say this wisdom waiting to come into your life because you are, from what we see, if we were to visualize, or rather describe the metaphor of what we see, you are in the midst of a swirling field of wisdom which wishes to penetrate into your conscious state, into your awareness. Yet it can't, because the access point that you give the most credence is through the channel of the teacher. And this is something which gives an open doorway or an invitation at a proportionality which is much less than the amount of wisdom that is there waiting to come to you. Because you have been interested for such a large part of your life, you have a very strong gravity for spiritual understanding. It is coming to you from all regions of the wisdom field, or wishing to create balance. Because you have a very strong spiritual curiosity, and you have done for a very long time, then this actually creates, you could say, a spiritual gravity. You have a gravitational pull for spirituality. And so this spirituality is swirling, seeking entrance into your consciousness, into your awareness. But because you give it only a very specific doorway, because this is how you have done it in the past, when it did serve you, and also because, as your brother says, you underestimate yourself, your own abilities, then this wisdom that is waiting to enter into your awareness is being stifled to a degree, is being backlogged, traffic jammed. So, and this is one of the reasons that you have vivid dreams, because this is yet another way that this wisdom is trying to seek access into your conscious state. So, regard to your dreams, we suggest that you start writing down your dreams. We understand that you have quite a good memory of your dreams because you describe them as being vivid dreams. And so vivid dreams infers that you have quite a strong memory of them when the dream is over. However, when you start writing down your dreams, this then shifts the dynamic, because now there is the acknowledgement that this is becoming a very formal and effective way of bringing relevant wisdom into your life. And so the dreams themselves will begin to take on a more specific tone, and you will actually start to get you'll actually start to realize you're receiving legitimate messages through the dreaming state. And it will take on just more of a coherent, congruent tonality. So rather than just being a fantastical experience, which leaves you wondering at the end of it, what does this mean? Was there something relevant in regard to this? So, as you have said, some of your dreams or some of the things that you hear, you realize it is loved ones that have passed over, letting you know that they're in another dimension and everything is okay. There is no need to worry, love is still present, and so on. Now you say this in a way which is very blasé, like, it's nothing really special. It's just, it's just that thing, of course. But this is part of this underestimating paradigm you have, because that is really quite an extraordinary gift, that you can receive messages and also through the dreaming state and recognize that they are coming from loved ones that have passed over. This is really something. And you have the tendency to just be dismissive of it. This is not an admonishment or a criticism. This is just an acknowledgement. We would just like you to realize that you're actually quite amazing, Lara. More amazing than you realize. And so when you start to accept this about yourself, that you actually are bestowed with some significant spiritual gifts that until now have laid dormant. And you can start to sort of shift that self-perception. So you now start to see yourself the way that your older brother sees you. Because he is showing us through his eyes that he sees you as a glowing, radiant being that is very humbly underestimating yourself and therefore underutilizing her special talents. In regard to your readiness for ascension, we choose to use the word readiness rather than worthiness, because the ascension dynamic, it isn't about worthiness, as in there is a entity saying you are worthy, you are not. Like the one, God says you are not worthy, therefore we cast you out. You are worthy, therefore you may ascend. It is not like that, and we suspect that you are aware of this, but others may see this, we don't know. So we would just like to put it out there that it is not about your worthiness. You're not being judged, but rather it is on the basis of your compatibility with the energetic dynamics. So if you have an energetic quality, meaning that an energetic quality which is highly conducive to the energy dynamics of ascension, meaning that you vibrate quite highly, then your opportunity to ascend is much more assured. However, if somebody has a denser vibration and they have a misconception of themselves as darkness, or even have chosen the philosophical pathway of darkness, then their vibration, being much lower, much more dense, will be incompatible with the ascension dynamics, and so they will be much more likely to not ascend. You already have quite a light and pure vibration, and so we would say at this point you actually have a high degree of compatibility with the ascension dynamics as we perceive it will occur, because remember, this is a very unique situation that you have in the human earth field. So we can make some extrapolations, some guesses, but across the scope of all of existence, it is extremely rare what is going to occur here. And so the historical empirical data which can be called upon to make predictions is very, very limited. So we can make guesses, and based on what we perceive will occur, you are already vibrating at a tonality which we would make the assumption is going to be sufficient. However, we would also suggest that you continue to increase your vibration, because the more you increase your vibration, then the more likely it is that you are going to be compatible with the ascension dynamics. And one of the great ways you can do this is to channel, because when you channel, you are actually, the process of channeling, elevating your vibration, and at the same time, your guides or the entities that you channel will lower their vibration so that you can meet somewhere in the middle to create this sort of harmonized state. And the overall impact on you, if you are a regular channeler, is that your vibration is continually being pulled up. And at the end of the channeling experience, it regresses, but it doesn't regress to the base level. It regresses to a level which is slightly above what the base level was. And so incrementally, bit by bit, you are raising and raising and raising and raising and raising and raising your vibration. And this process of raising your vibration also is going to be activating latent abilities within you, and including increasing the intensity, the potency of spiritual abilities within you. So your channeling ability will become better and better and better and better. So it is a positive feedback loop. The more you channel, the higher your vibration, the higher the vibration, the better you channel, and so on and so on and so on. So we are sensing that there is some wondering, or some perhaps thought of the idea that if you were to channel, you don't really like the idea of other people watching you channel. And we make a point of this to sort of bring it out into isolation so we can discuss it, is that channeling, for most, and certainly as the way to start, is entirely about you and your guides. It is for you. It is for your guides. It is for your higher self. It is entirely about the loving exchange between you and, as we like to say, your team. Your team being your guides and your higher self. So, it is very much a personal experience. You do not need to even tell anyone that this is something that you are doing. But as humanity sort of makes its transition into the light, it is coming now at a time where it is going to be of increasing importance that more humans start bringing wisdom into the information field for humanity. Because at this time now, humanity is faced with quite an intimidating force of darkness, which is trying to take entire dominion over the earth and all basically elements of being a human being. And so at this time, more than any other in human history, humanity needs much wisdom, much divine light and understanding. And so the more of humanity that access this infinite wisdom field and start pouring it into the human experience, then the more humanity is going to be able to take on this confrontation and ultimately triumph. So, not only as a service to yourself, but also as a service to the entire humanity being, we make this strong recommendation that you begin to do some type of channeling, and it can be something which is entirely just between you and your team. What we'd like to do now is speak about this idea of imagination, because you have said in your questions that during the meditative state, and also at other times, you feel like you receive some information, but it's difficult for you to believe it's something other than just your imagination. And so, how can that be reconciled? There is an understanding about the relationship between the influx or reception of divine wisdom and your imagination that will, once grasped and integrated, will very much change what you think you're capable of, what is actually going on during those experiences. What is really important to understand is that your team, meaning your guides, your higher self, will have to utilize the imagination as the platform of their communication with you. So, it is always going to come through the imagination. That is one of the central purposes of the imagination platform. Your societies and culture, particularly in the West, have been discouraged from having any type of reliance or credence in the imagination as adults, because it is a child's playground. This is bad advice. And in part, it has been deliberately made part of your sort of cultural belief system, because those that have stolen the sacred knowledge understand how important and integral the imagination is to accessing deeper truths, higher wisdoms. Because it is literally the access point. It comes through your imagination. When you hear it, when you see it internally, when you get these sensations, and you start to assign meanings and understandings to them, this is all occurring within the platform of your imagination. So you must start thinking now of your imagination not as a children's playground which cannot be relied upon, but as a gift from your Creator to give you a bridge between the physical and the infinite non-physical. It is a very, very powerful instrument. And one of the reasons that the imagination is often dismissed as implying that whatever information you received, whatever insight you got, was really just nothing, is that it happens in sort of a first-person experience. Meaning that you hear the voice. You hear the voice inside you. So it's your first-person experience. When you are channeling with your channeling verbally, it will feel like it is your experience. It'll feel like it is you sitting in the room with your eyes closed speaking. When you are automatic writing, it will still feel like it is you writing on the piece of paper. You can see that it is. Your eyes are open, the pen's in your hand. You can feel and see that you're writing on the page. So there's always going to be an element of first-person experience. But what is important to understand is that when you are channeling, you are forming a group being. And this is very easy to illustrate because the message is coming through you. But you are saying or writing a wisdom which you know is not from your conscious self. It has a quality and a profundity which is beyond your abilities when you're just having a conversation with another person. So it is coming from somewhere which isn't you, or which isn't you as you know yourself when you look in the mirror. But it is coming through you as the person you know in the mirror. So it is a composite. Is it a composite of something which is other than you coming through you? So it is the transmission, by definition, of a group being. And in this group being, you are always going to be present. So it's always going to feel to some degree that it is a first-person experience. And when you don't have a belief in your imagination, then it becomes very easy to dismiss it as nothing. Crucial for your transition to the next level of spirituality that we're speaking about is your willingness to suspend disbelief and to have faith and belief that what is coming through is in fact transmitted wisdom from your team, from your guides, from your higher self. It's absolutely essential that you shift your mindset in this way. And when you're able to do that, and you dedicate some time to the art of channeling, then you will become much more skilled, much more proficient at utilizing your pre-existing abilities. We want to say this because it is literally engineered into your biotechnology. It is a birthright by default, which all humans possess. And at this time in the human experience, they are being activated. And those that have sort of a history of spiritual curiosity and endeavor are very primed for these abilities to become activated over a much shorter period of time than it would be for others that haven't really had a spiritual interest until this moment in their lives. So what we are saying is, Lara, you are very primed, very ready. It is now time to make this transition because your guides and your higher self have been wanting to make connection with you for a long time. And this is why you find there is this sort of increasing inundation or immersion or saturation with spiritual sensation. Seeing, hearing, feeling, dreaming. It's all closing in on you. It's all trying to get access into your conscious state, into your awareness. And this is going to rely so much on your capacity for belief, for faith, for trust, and for awe also of your imagination. Your brother is grinning. He's enjoying this session because he thinks it is going to pump some sense into you. Now, in this process of shifting your mindset, shifting your belief systems, there are going to be occurrences or experiences where the information that comes through is just of a poor quality, and it really makes you doubt. It's like there's no way that this is higher wisdom because it's just garbage what just came through. Understand, this is a matter of developing the muscle. So it's not that you can just make these internal decisions and suddenly start masterfully bringing through a higher level of wisdom. It's not how it works. You must develop the skill. You must develop the muscle, condition it. And so you may find that in the beginning, that the information that comes through, some of it is just, you could say it is just trashy. It's just no good. It's of low value. It's nonsensical. It's garble. This may occur. We're not saying necessarily it will, but what we would like to set up is your acceptance that it's not going to be perfect, fantastic, right from the very first time you do this. It is something that is going to develop over time. So, one of the great ways which we recommend that you do this process of being more of the open and accepting flow or conduit for the flow is to start channeling during your art process. So when you are doing your art, we are saying start channeling through some fundamental energies. This is something that you already do, by the way. But because you are a being which is of sort of a potent spiritual capacity that has underestimated themselves mostly to this point, you do not realize, or perhaps do not accept, that this is what you're already doing when you are doing your art. So, rather than bring through a sophisticated, specific message, what we are saying is start by bringing through a particular energetic tonality into your art. So, if you wanted to do a painting, it can be inspired by a channeled emotionality. So, you could, for example, this would be most appropriate considering what we feel of you, the type of art that you do, your relationship with the world around, is do a painting which is inspired by a channeled love. And this could be the channeled love of your brother that has passed over. He's saying that he would love to be portraited by you. And not necessarily a painting of him, but rather that you portrait his love energy. If you go into the environment where you do your art, then he is quite happy to provide you with an intense love, which is very specific for him to you, because he continues to love you profoundly. And then you could paint whatever it is that you feel that you would like to paint, whatever it takes you with inspiration, and let it be a mechanism where you channel the love of your brother. And this can be a very easy, fundamental way to start, to sort of get used to this concept of you channeling something. And then over time, you can choose to be more formalized in the channeling process. So you now start doing writing, or you now start doing speaking, or something like that. In regard to your question, and this will be the final thing that we will cover, you're asking if you should be doing something other than just your art with your dogs. Oh, other than what we've already said about you bringing more wisdom into the world through developing your channeling ability. The next best thing you could do, or really the best thing that you could do, which channeling is going to really increase your capacity for, is to be in a predominant state of love and light at all times. And the reason that we say this is because the energetics are underestimated and how important they are to the human field at this time. There is much of the machinations and the sort of the practical physical matters of humanity shrugging off the cabal of darkness and using law and order and education and government and so on to bring about this shift. But what's powering it, the fuel that makes this all possible, is the expanding presence and potency of the light in the earth human field. So, if you are happy and quite content to be spending your days with your dogs, enjoying your artful endeavors, then that is sufficient. Given that you are in those moments and in the moments outside of those moments in a predominant state of love and light. That you have a love and a sense of all of these elements of the spectrum of the light. Gratitude, peace, happiness, joy, bliss, and of course love. If you're always in a state which is a combination of these particular fragmentations of the love spectrum, then you are contributing to the advancement, to the human field, the humanity being, to the one, to the earth, in a very significant way. And it would only take a certain percentage, which is much less than half of the global population, to be in that state predominantly, to shift the trajectory of the earth so fast that it would literally be shocking to all those that inhabit this planet. So, if you wish to actually get out of the house and start doing something, rather than just doing your painting because you are not content, then we recommend that you start doing readings for other people. Start developing this ability to use your own intuitive assets, your own spiritual apparatus, where you now become the conduit. So rather than you being the 27-year-old young woman who goes and sees the trance medium to receive the message, that you now make the transition to the point where you are the conduit, you are the trance medium, you are the channeler, you are the reader, whether it is tarot or whatever it is that you choose to do. And others come to you to receive that which they can access only through you at this time, because they have not discovered how to access it in themselves. So, overall, in sort of a general sense, when we observe you, we would say that you have quite a balanced and harmonious energy. You are in a good place in your relationship, in your life, in your sense of well-being. And so we would say that your shadow has been well integrated as you suggest. And this integration of the shadow is really the process of understanding what the shadow is and then letting it go. So it is not so much an integration of the shadow, but rather is an integration of the understanding of what you actually are, so that the shadow can be let go and it is no longer part of your composition. So while you are not the perfect being, we would say that you have good reason to be very satisfied with yourself, to be very proud of where you have arrived at this stage in your life, and allow yourself to believe that you are capable of much, much more in the realm of spirituality. And it does not need to be something which requires years of study and application under your master, because you are ready to become your own master in some regard, and allow this information, which is waiting, banging on the door, to find entry into your spiritual awareness, your conscious state. Then you can then start being an entity of great profundity. Certainly in how meaningful you can be in your own life. And also, if you choose to develop it, how much you can be profound in the lives of others. So, there are many timelines ahead of you, Lara, many ways that you can go. So we have laid out a couple which we feel has a high level of congruency to who you are and who you like to be. So we feel either of those choices would give you a great deal of life satisfaction. But it is yours to choose, and it is our wish you understand that it is not limited to only those two. So, we hope that you have found this to be an insightful and useful session, Lara. It has been our pleasure. We feel a very nice, pleasant energy when we are connected to you this way. And from this nice energy, we can perceive that you are a good person, that you are a lovely human being. And so it has been our pleasure and our honor to do this here for you today. And before we sign off, your brother is tapping us on the shoulder, wishing for us to convey to you that he loves you, he's proud of you, and he's so glad that you have made the step to connect with us through the channeler so that this information can come through to you. And he has been feeling a sense of frustration that you do not perceive of yourself in the full vastness of who you are and what you're capable of. And of course, frustration isn't really the correct word, because he's in a state where he does not feel frustration. But we sense you understand what our meaning is. And so, he is waving to you, and he loves you so, so dearly. And it is with a little twinge of regret that he acknowledges this session is ending. Because when this session was in the flow and we were connected to you, he was able to also voyeuristically or by proxy make a connection with you to help you integrate this information into your beingness. But nonetheless, he wants you to know he is always available. At the moment you think of him, he will be there with you. And always, in a sense of the most profound generosity, total unconditional giving, he will be there to provide to you all that he can, with no requirement to receive anything in return. He is unconditional. in his love and generosity for you. Thank you, Lara. We love you and we bless you.